Every year, I try to take a vacation. This ritual began in 2016 with a trip to my state's capital of Austin for RTX, a convention based around not only Rooster Teeth but electronic media subculture. It was a chance for me to get out of my refinery-ridden town and experience a new city with people who also valued the things that I enjoy, despite coming from other distinct places. I loved it. The problem was, and still is, that it's expensive. The first trip cost me around $1,000, and that was me and my guest taking lodging at a family member's house not too far away from the city. The next year I went with multiple guests and split the cost of the trip with them, but it still cost around the same since we didn't have that lodging that time around. Spending that much every year wasn't conducive to saving money or ensuring that I was able to make the big purchases that a young man has to when they're starting off in this world. So I had to stop. That was a miserable experience. It was as if I had tasted the essence of a paradise now that I was forbidden from ever stepping foot into again. And worse, it was by my own hand. The idea of being stuck in that same refinery-ridden town was depressing, even if it wasn't forever. I needed to escape, not just to end the boredom, but to satisfy my own curiosity about the world and my place in it. With no money, how was a younger Brandon supposed to tackle that? Milton Berle is quoted with saying, "If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door." By exposing myself to media outside of my home, even my own country, the door was wide open for opportunities to tantalize. In the end, it was a game that took me away from my home. And that game was Yakuza 0.
Don't be so serious. Don't be so serious.
Yakuza 0 took me to a red light district within the late 80s boom period of Japan in a city called Kamurocho. Kamurocho was a paradise. Money practically grew on trees. People's newfound affluence drove their aspirations, and a bright nightlife was stood adjacent against to a somehow even exciting daytime with real estate ventures and entrepreneurship. Under those showy expressions of newfound power were corrupted crime families trying to seize upon these newfound citizens' dreams. And our perspective of this conflict were from two young Yakuza rookies, both struggling to understand why the world that they thought was wide open waiting for them looked so rotten from its underside. Kamurocho as a setting is extremely dense. That is the number one thing people will tell you about these games. With every Yakuza game, we see some iteration of the city of Kamurocho. The city is similar title to title, but like all real places, certain areas change from year to year. Different restaurants open up as others close their doors. The public park that used to occupy one side of the street is turned into a parking lot for new businesses on the other side. Bars' names change, different restaurants and shops fill those same streets, while various activities are sprinkled on the busier sides of the city. This is a place where obvious product placement is immersive, unlike Death Stranding, where our lone delivery man is sipping on Monster Energy, the one cockroach business that survived the apocalypse. Different time periods in these games show us how the city has changed from the late 80s up until 2016. And playing as a resident of the city as opposed to a tourist gives us a unique perspective into those areas that we normally are too scared to venture into with our short weekends or weeks in these new places. Kamurocho's landmarks are the organs of the city's living atmosphere. Millennium Tower is the peak of wealth achieved by the city's elite, and is often the setting of each game's climax. When something is going down at the tower, you know it's something important. Theater Square is often the source of crowds itching to get into somewhere exclusive that night. The area itself is simply a public square, but it's surrounded by nightclubs and arcades, and when those aren't the source of attention, it's only because a once-in-a-lifetime event is going down in the square itself. The Champion District is home to the older nightlife of the city. Many of the city's traditional bars reside within its narrow walls, and the Sega-themed arcades are replaced here with low-stakes games of darts and relationships built over long nights of drinking together with friends through times of thick and thin. The activities themselves in the city are often very similar year to year, as one would expect, with karaoke, gambling, and the arcade being fan favorites to return almost every year. New places pop up as some places go out of business, like a golfing center and a race park. And the activities that do return more often than not bring something new to the table each time, like different music that is more popular than what was available last year. Or new games to fill the arcade.
Get up to rock! Get up to burn! Stand with the pride and burn for your desire!
The people that you experience a vacation with are oftentimes just as important as the trip or the place itself. It is often in media that we elevate good settings to the position of characters themselves within a work because of the importance that we place on human-to-human interaction and the mark that good and bad relationships leave upon us and our journey towards our future selves. The characters that occupy the city are diverse, distinct, and exist within that city when we aren't looking, meaning that when we see them again year to year, they will have changed, sometimes for the worse. Experiencing this city as Kiryu almost every year gives us a stable viewpoint to watch this ever-changing world from. The diversity of the city's residents instill a realism to these people, despite the fact that the scenarios that they are often placed in are incredibly unrealistic, and their responses to these situations are equally dynamic. For example, Kiryu's adoptive daughter Haruka wants to escape from the crime-filled childhood that she grew up in, much like how we all aspire to leave our parents' nest and see new places away from home. However, she's afraid that leaving that world behind means leaving her adoptive father Kiryu behind, since he is so strongly connected to it. Majima, another one, is a former Yakuza driven to almost non-stop lunacy by the out-of-reach demands that a life of crime extols out of vulnerable young men looking for freedom in a world governed by rules and quota and expectations. And it's in these rare glimpses of sanity under this mad dog's gaze that we find real struggle and growth throughout his journey. Nishikiyama is the often lamented funny loner in a group of friends, He can crack everyone up, he can make everyone laugh, keep them happy, but he will always be this side character. He'll never be the main event. His path takes us down the long-term consequences of simply accepting that role despite being constantly unfulfilled. Finally, Kiryu himself is an idealistic gangster with a heart of gold. Constantly clashing against the sea that he rose up from, repeatedly being torn down by the waves of cherished selfish desire amongst the Yakuza elite. Every rival he encounters in his struggle to escape his former life leaves behind a roadblock of admirable virtue, making it even harder for him to move on. The divide between the pursuit of his own passions and his responsibility of raising a child amongst a world of crime, while maintaining their safety and their innocence, forms the underlying struggle for Kiryu throughout the series. And its end is a masterful deconstruction of the power fantasy that Kiryu and the series relies so heavily upon. The people that we spend our free time with are often as important as the things that we do with it. At the end of the day, Yakuza is fun, and at the end of the day, what use is a vacation if it isn't fun? At the heart of every vacation is a desire to escape, and a dream to immerse oneself in a paradise not found within our normal means. The silhouette districts of Kamurocho, found against its own neon nightlife, are something I'm so incredibly thankful for. And not only do I hope that you can find something to hold on to preciously from this city, but that it translates into something to find tangibly within our own world to hold dear. Find someone, love them, live your life loving the people and the world around you. Don't give up, and fight for the people that you care about. Life is too precious to simply be satisfied with electronic cities and fake people. Finding those values within our real world means is the finish line to the journey that we begin in our heads when we daydream about these things. Art is beautiful, but life is even more so.
自分らしくいることが一番大切なんじゃねえのか。世の中にはお前のいいところを大切にしてくれるやつだってきっといるはずだ。
あれだけ知りたかった私の過去。
あなたに繋がる糸がもつれ始めるシャリバにきらめ